Hello everyone and welcome to this new adventure. We start today's video at the airport while boarding to reach the ancient capital of Egypt, Cairo. This is what I mean when I ask dinner out. There's nothing better than a sunset view followed by a night view from the aircraft over the city in which you are about to start a new travel experience. Welcome to the land of history. Thank you. A colleague kindly came picking me up at the airport and accompanied me to try something very local, shisha, or better known, nargileh. In Egypt, there are hundreds of bars specialized in serving shisha, a traditional way to smoke tobacco. The most famous preparation is called tabamel and is a mixture of glycerin and molasses heated by a charcoal briquette, from which it is separated by means of an aluminium sheet perforated in several places. Many different flavors exist, and when you order one, you have the feeling of ordering a drink. Maybe that is why in Arabic they say to drink and not to smoke shisha. In Egypt, it doesn't matter if it's winter time, late in the evening and it is cold. People enjoy anyway the time outside while they watch someone preparing their food in the streets. Streets here are full of life. After having had the shisha, the colleague brings me to see the biggest shopping mall they open in Cairo. It is called Mall of Arabia. I'm not a fan of shopping centers, but I find impressive how big this one is, and the fact they work till late at night is actually useful for me, as I landed not much time ago and I need to buy a local phone card, hopefully without breaking my bank account. The Egyptian guide is very proud of the water and lights show the mall provides with its fountains, but after having seen the show of the fountains of Burj Khalifa in Dubai, sincerely I'm not that impressed. We go to bed late at night as people do here, and the day after I start realizing how big Cairo is. Thankfully I have a driver and a car. Here, I'm spending a lot of time stuck in the traffic or simply reaching one place and another, as distances are truly important. Without even realizing it, it is already night. So, time to have some food and later get lost in what is considered one of the most interesting cultural experiences you can live once you are in Cairo. Khan el-Khalili, a famous bazar in the historic center, established as a center of trade in the Mamluk era and named for one of its several historic caravanserais. It became one of Cairo's main attractions for tourists. It is home to many Egyptian artisans and workshops involved in the production of traditional craft and souvenirs. The name Khan el-Khalili historically referred to a single building in the area. Today, it refers to the entire shopping district. Over many years, space along the Kasaba Avenue steadily narrowed as new constructions encroached on it and open spaces disappeared. As the main street became saturated with shops and space for further development there ran out, new commercial structures were instead built further east, close to Al-Azhar Mosque and to the shrine of Al-Hussein, where some space was still available. Instead of hosting mobile market stalls that were assembled in open spaces, the city's souk areas were progressively replaced by fixed stone structures with built-in spaces for individual shops. This was partly a consequence of the authorities wishing to impose greater control on commercial activities. Fixed structures could be counted, taxed, and regulated more easily than makeshift market stalls that could come and go. As the city became denser and space ran out, builders preferred to build multi-storied structures known as khan or wikala, a type of caravanserai. These types of buildings were centered around an inner peristyle courtyard where merchants could store their goods, while the upper levels were used as living quarters. Their street facades typically had spaces for shops at ground level. In this way, a commercial zone could extend around and between multiple khans. By the time of Sultan Barkuk, the first Bourji Mamluk Sultan, Egypt had been significantly affected by the ravages of the Black Death, but continued to be the center of great economic activity, with many commercial and religious buildings still being constructed at the time. During Barkuk's first reign, his master of the stables, Jarkakax al-Khalili, demolished the Fatimid mausoleum to erect a large khan at the heart of the city. The Khan became known as Khan al-Khalili after his name. The name eventually came to denote the entire district. Later, Mamluk elites also built commercial structures in the vicinity and beyond. In Sultan Qaitbay's time, one of his emirs, Yashbakh bin Mahdi, built the Rat al-Baldistan, an apartment complex for renters just across from the Khan al-Khalili. Qaitbay himself built the Vikala of Sultan Qaitbay further east, near Al-Hazar Mosque. By the late 15th century, the district around Khan al-Khalili had become the major center for foreign trade, including the sale of slaves and precious stones. The Khan al-Khalili today is occupied by local merchants and traders and is significantly geared towards tourists. Shops typically sell souvenirs, antiques, and jewelry. The adjoining goldsmith souk is still important for locals. Although less widespread than in earlier days, many crafts workshops continue to operate within the bazar and in the surrounding districts, manufacturing some of the products sold here or exported elsewhere. In addition to shops, there are several coffee houses, restaurants, and street food vendors distributed throughout the market. The coffee shops are generally small and quite traditional, serving Arabic coffee and usually offering shisha. One of the oldest and most famous coffee houses is El Fishhawi, established in 1773. The market was a target of terrorism during the spate of attacks in Cairo in April 2005. The suicide attack in the market on April 7th killed 21 people, 11 Egyptians, 2 French tourists, 1 American, and 7 foreigners of unidentified origin. It was the first attack of the series. This attack drove away tourists from Egypt in general and Khan al-Khalili in particular for some time. The market was again a target of terrorism on the 22nd February 2009. In this attack, a 17-year-old French girl was killed and 22 people were injured. But now, let's go to the Citadel of Cairo, or Citadel of Saladin, which is a medieval Islamic-era fortification in Cairo, built by Saladin and further developed by subsequent Egyptian rulers. It was the seat of government in Egypt and the residence of its rulers for nearly 700 years, from the 13th century until the construction of Abdin Palace in the 19th century. Its location on a promontory of the Mokattam Hills near the center of Cairo commands a strategic position overlooking the city and dominating its skyline. When it was constructed, it was among the most impressive and ambitious military fortification projects of its time. It is now a preserved historic site, including mosques and museums. In addition to the initial Ayyubid era, construction began by Saladin in 1176. The citadel underwent major development during the Mamluk Sultanate that followed, culminating with the construction projects of Sultan al-Nasir Muhammad in the 14th century. In the first half of the 19th century, Muhammad Ali Pasha demolished many of the older buildings and built new palaces and monuments all across the site, giving it much of its present form. In the 20th century, it was used as a military garrison by the British occupation and then by the Egyptian army until being opened to the public in 1983. In 1976, it was proclaimed by UNESCO as a part of the World Heritage Site Historic Cairo, Islamic Cairo, which was the new center of the Islamic world, reaching its golden age in the 14th century. Have you seen the sandstorm? How fascinating is watching Cairo being covered by desert sand. The citadel contains several museums: the Egyptian Military Museum, Al-Gafkhara Palace Museum, the Carriage Museum, the Police Museum. There are also 4 main mosques in the citadel today, some of which are open to visitors: the Mosque of Muhammad Ali, Al-Nazir Muhammad Mosque, the Mosque of Suleiman Pasha, the Mosque of Al-Azhab. It is important to dress properly before going inside them. After the long walk discovering this historical place, is again dinner time, and I'm ready to taste some local food such as molokhia, ful medames, and habafshi. New day, but once again on the road. This time I'm in the car with the beautiful Rana, a girl I just met during my trip, friend of a friend of mine, whom is kindly taking good care of me, showing me around and explaining me things about her country. I love when traveling I have this great chance of meeting such kind-hearted people ready to share their knowledge and welcoming travelers. Rana is bringing me eating koshari because in her opinion it is crazy I still didn't try this traditional Egyptian food. She decided to bring me in the most famous place for this recipe. The restaurant is called Abou Tarek, and she is so right bringing me here. I can't thank her enough as the place is nice and clean and food simply delicious. What there's inside this dish? Rice, pasta, boiled chickpeas, lentils, tomato sauce, garlic, cumin, crispy fried onions, oil and vinegar.
Vinegar? This is the chili. Yeah, it's hot. Oh, it must be very hot. Yeah.
After dinner, Rana, my Egyptian angel, says I can go back home to Italy without having sailed, or at least seen, the Nile River. So, here we are at its banks, ready to jump on one of these disco party boats. There are several, and it seems they are in competition. All of them have lots of lights and loud music on board. You can have a normal tour on board, or you can even rent musicians, dancers, or order food and make a proper floating party. The fantasy and business ideas Egyptians have is admirable. We have the whole boat just for us, and I must say, it is something I would have never thought to experience.
I'm on the Nile. They're on the Nile.
While the boat floats along the Nile so that we can admire Cairo from a different perspective, I highly suggest you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, because doing like this you won't miss the next episodes shot around the world. If you enjoyed watching the video, please leave a like and let me know with a comment which is the thing you liked most about Cairo among the different things I showed you. Share the video with your friends, so if they are planning a trip to Cairo, they can have a few ideas about what to see and to experience. See you in the next video. Ciao!